For this lesson, we're going to talk about solids, liquids, and gases. So, you all learned in second grade about the differences between solids and liquids. We know that solids are materials that hold their shape. This can be rocks or pencils, books, anything that is hard and it has a definite shape. Liquids take the shape of their container. If I have water and pour it into a glass, it's going to take the shape of that glass. But you also learn in second grade that objects can change between a liquid and a solid. If you have candle wax is hard at first, but if you light the candle, then the wax will eventually melt and change into a liquid. Same with ice or butter or lots of things. But today, we're going to learn about why that happens. So, by the end of this unit, you will identify 3 different states of matter: solids, liquids, and gases, and you will be able to compare the differences of each. You will also understand how these properties can change when they're either heated up or they're cooled down through a process called particle motion. So we're going to learn all about that today. Now, solids. Solids are materials that hold their shape, like we said before. They are made of particles that are very close together, and these particles are constantly vibrating at a fixed point. They're not moving around, they're staying in their own spot, but they're vibrating back and forth. So you can see these images of solids, and you see this tiny circles, and those are particles, and you see how they're very close together. They're not moving around, or they're not going far away or anything. They're staying in their own spot. Now, liquids are different. They take the shape of their container, and these particles, they're more spread out than the particles of solids. They move around and flow back and forth. As you can see in this picture, you see that the particles are they're farther apart, and so that's the difference between solids and liquids. But now we're going to learn about gases too. And gases are, it could be air or steam, things like that. And that doesn't have a fixed shape. It doesn't have a definite image, because these particles are spread very far apart. They're moving in all different directions, and they're never touching, like the picture shows. You see how far apart they are? That's what classifies a gas. So now, whenever an object is heated up, the particles start vibrating faster. They're moving a lot more, and they're spreading further apart because they're hot and they just want to get away from all the other particles. They want to be left alone. But if these particles move too far apart, then the object changes to a different state. If I have a solid, and you know all those particles are really close together, if they get heated up, they're going to spread further apart, and as they spread further apart, they eventually turn into a liquid. And then if they keep on spreading further apart, then they change into a gas. So you can see these pictures. The first one shows a solid, and how if the solid's cold, the particles are really close together. They're still vibrating, but when it gets hot, they're vibrating faster and they're moving further apart. And the same with a liquid. They're moving further and further apart till it changes into a gas. Now, the opposite happens when an object cools down. Whenever an object cools down, the particles start coming back together. They're getting closer. And then a gas will turn back into a liquid, and a liquid will turn back into a solid. If I have the same glass of water and I stuck it in the freezer where it's very cold, then those particles, they're going to start getting closer together because they're cold and they want to bundle up with all the other particles. and they're getting closer together, and eventually it's going to turn back into a solid, and that water is going to turn into ice. So that is the lesson on solids, liquids, and gases. Now your next steps are to watch the videos about matter that are attached to this lesson. You need to answer all the questions in Google Forms to the best of your ability and all on your own. You don't need help from a partner. And then I want you to write down 2 questions for me to answer tomorrow in class. And finally, you need to be prepared to do some experiments and have fun tomorrow as we learn more about solids, liquids, and gases. And once we're finished with that, you're going to be able to make your own video telling me what you know about solids, liquids, and gases. So I will see you all tomorrow in class.